Come to order. We're holding hearings on the question of television violence and what can and should be done about this. There is no longer any question about the harm that television violence does. At one point that was debated. I don't find anyone debating that question anymore. 3 years ago, or 2.5 years ago, the industry was given an exemption under the antitrust laws to get together to establish standards in an attempt to see what we can do on a voluntary basis to solve this problem. The question today is, where are we, and will the industry respond adequately? Only 3 nations, Japan, Germany, and the United States, have no censorship of television and movies. I regard that as an asset. Everyone in the United States does not regard that as an asset. There is national recognition of the problem, and the question is whether we're going to deal with it in a responsible way. Last week's New Yorker magazine quotes Hollywood producer Lawrence Gordon. "I'd be lying if I said that people don't imitate what they see on the screen. I would be a moron to say that they don't, because look how dress styles change. We have people who want to look like Julia Roberts, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Madonna. Of course we imitate. It would be impossible for me to think that they would imitate our dress, our music, our look, but not imitate any of our violence or other actions." Children imitate. I have a 3-year-old granddaughter. I see her imitating what's on television. Children watch an average 27 hours per week of television, and in some inner city areas that goes as high as 11 hours a day. The American Psychological Association, will be hearing from them today, last year reported that accumulated research clearly demonstrates a correlation between viewing violence and aggressive behavior. That is, heavy viewers behave more aggressively than light viewers. Children and adults who watch a large number of aggressive programs also tend to hold attitudes and values that favor the use of aggression to solve conflicts. Dr. Brandon Centerwall, who will be one of our witnesses today, had the results of his study in the American Medical Association Journal on June 10th of last year. And he said in his article, among other things, "Infants have instinctive desire to imitate observed human behavior. They do not possess an instinct for gauging a priori whether a behavior ought to be imitated. They will imitate anything, including behavior that most adults would regard as destructive and antisocial. Up through ages 3 and 4, many children are unable to distinguish fact from fantasy in television programs and remain unable to do so despite adult coaching. In the minds of such young children, television is a source of entirely factual information regarding how the world works." And then he reached this dramatic conclusion. "Long-term childhood exposure to television is a causal factor behind approximately 10,000 homicides annually. If, hypothetically, television technology had never been developed, there would be 10,000 fewer homicides each year in the United States, 70,000 fewer rapes, and 700,000 fewer injurious assaults." That's pretty powerful medicine. TV Guide asked for a study by the Center for Media and Public Affairs on 1 day of television last year. In 1 day of television, they measured 389 serious assaults, excluding use of guns, 362 gunplay items, 273 isolated punches, 272 incidents of pushing and dragging, menacing threat with a weapon, 226, 128 slaps, deliberate property destruction, 95, simple assault, 73, all other types, 28, for a total of 1,846. The Congressional Quarterly Research says the year 1992 set an all-time record for violence in children's shows. According to Harvard University psychologist Ron Slaby, the harm caused by violence in the media goes beyond increasing aggression. Youngsters also experience a victim effect, increased fearfulness of becoming a victim, and a bystander effect, increased callousness toward violence directed at others. According to the Times Mirror poll done this year, 72% of Americans think that television shows contain too much violence. 80% of those surveyed felt that violence was harmful to society. This is all on the negative side. On the positive, the industry has come together. The three networks handed me standards in December that they agreed upon in the area of violence that will affect fall programming of this coming year. And I have to say, as I look at the fall programming, with the exception of the movies, because I can't tell what they're going to be, the fall programming does look less violent. And it is not simply the standards. Frankly, the standards are fairly subjective. They are not like the British standards, where they are measure specific incidents. The standards include phrases like no gratuitous violence. And one cynic told me violence that makes money won't be gratuitous. I don't think that's the case. But there are cynics out there who don't believe that the standards really will result in fundamental change. What encourages me is, frankly, the reaction of some of the people in the industry, including one of the witnesses today, Howard Stringer, president of CBS Broadcast Group, who recently stated, "It is hard not to think that broadcasters had some role in making the U.S. a more violent nation." That attitude encourages me. I'm also encouraged by the fact that cable is inching ahead. I have to say it has not gone as far as the broadcast industry has up to this point, but is inching ahead. The concern expressed in other countries is encouraging. In New Zealand, where 64% of the drama on television originates in America, the New Zealand Mental Health Foundation has called for a reduction in the number of U.S. television programs. According to one of the group's recent surveys, the imported American television programs are 3 times more violent than that of other countries. And the recent New Yorker article pointed out that one of the best-known children's programs in this country has 2 versions. One version has violence in it. That's shown in the United States. The other version eliminates the violence. That is shown in all the rest of the world. Now, how often that may be the case, how many other programs, I don't know. But that is the kind of thing that I find very discouraging. I'm concerned also about promotions and the reality shows, and I would ask my staff to take, we're going to show 4.5 minutes of promotions, and I think a little bit from some of the other programs that are coming up.
They were just 16 words buried in a 4-line ad, but they created a twisted love affair, destroyed a man's life, and led to the brutal murder of 3 innocent people. Discover the secret of 16 deadly words when love kills, Tuesday. Know how it ended. Now you'll see how it all began.
Will you follow me?
I'll
Emmy Award-winning In the Line of Duty series.
You're mine. And you. And you.
A revealing world premiere movie based on the actual events that gripped a nation.
They'll try to kill us! Do it!
Tim Daly is David Koresh.
What do you kill for me?
The world premiere of Ambush in Waco next Sunday on NBC.
For a third-generation cop, there are 3 rules of survival. See no evil.
Destroyed evidence.
Hear no evil.
You gotta play the game.
Speak no evil.
All you have to do is keep your mouth shut.
But this cop has seen too much.
It's important enough to get yourself killed?
He's heard too much.
I can't drop it.
And he's ready to talk.
Don't do it, Zach.
Michael Onkeen, Eli Wallach, Martin Landau. Legacy of Lies, a USA world premiere movie. Wednesday night at 9, 8 Central.
Better than a Saturday matinee.
Teenage fugitives, America's first serial killers.
We've got a mad dog killer on our hands.
Oh my God!
Shut up.
One of the biggest manhunts in history.
Let's move in. He is armed and extremely dangerous.
We'll do anything you say.
Starkweather's like a natural disaster.
I don't want to go! No!
People magazine calls it spellbinding. Murder in the Heartland, Monday.
Unlock the door. No. I said open the door. No.
Tom Shales, the movie critic for the Washington Post, noted on May 1st, the networks in their madness are going to put America through the ringer with one bloody mess after another this month. He called May Murder Month. One other writer calls it Mayhem May. Howard Rosenberg, movie critic for the Los Angeles Times, described it this way. It is a time when much of prime time again will resemble Murder, Inc. It starts with a bloody binge that yields not 1, not 2, not 3, but a whopping 11 bodies. He wrote that in April. Murder in the Heartland, you just saw a preview on that. Washington Post reports that a 18-year-old Canadian saw it and repeated the murders in the same way that he saw on that movie. On the positive side again, the industry has called a meeting for August 2nd in Los Angeles where broadcast, cable, and the film industry will come together. Jack Valenti called me immediately after the announcement of the program and said, we recognize we have problems. We're going to participate. I forget how many people have been invited from the movie industry, but a great many, and Jack Valenti has twice been up to my office discussing this whole problem with me. We face, ultimately, it seems to me, a choice of censorship or responsible voluntary conduct. And clearly the better answer is responsible voluntary conduct. We don't want to stifle creativity, but we have to recognize in this free society we have a problem. Before I call on the first witnesses here, let me call on my colleagues for any opening statements. And let me just say, two of the witnesses are from North Dakota. This is not just a problem in Chicago or Boston or Los Angeles or Cleveland. This is a problem all across America. Senator Metzenbaum.
Mr. Chairman, I came over to express my appreciation to you for your leadership in this area. You have raised the profile of this issue, raised the concerns of those of us in the Congress. Congressman Markey has done the same, and Conrad, Senator Dorgan, have also been involved. But you've been the champion, and you have led the way, and you have said to the industry, come, let's reason together, and let's see if we can work it out. When they said that they couldn't reason together because they were concerned about the antitrust implications, you came, we worked out together in the Antitrust Committee and put through the Congress an exemption that made it possible for them to sit down and talk. But the fact is that tempus fugit, time moves on, and really their talk at this point is far better than their action. I'm aware of the fact that this meeting is going to be taking place, and I'm hopeful that it's productive. I'm also aware of the fact that Tom Shales had a subsequent article, I think it was today as a matter of fact, in which he says, murder month is almost over, but the networks still have a few more violent crime movies to sneak in before the May ratings sweeps end. This weekend, NBC offers In the Line of Duty, Ambush in Waco, which saw a promo for a movie erected on the ashes of the Branch Davidian tragedy in Texas. ABC airs Deadly Relations, the sordid saga of a monstrous drug-addicted dad. I've been around here long enough to know that sometimes problems go on, and those in the industry think that they can hire the best or the highest paid lobbyists and somehow keep Congress from acting. But I think the turnout for this hearing this morning of 5 senators it indicates a tremendous interest in the subject, and the congressperson who is the leader in the House on this issue indicates that we are not going to just stand by and twiddle our thumbs. We're not going to wait until they get around to doing something about it. It's not alone the glorification of violence that creates the problems, besides the fact that it desensitizes brutality. It sends a message that violence is an acceptable way to resolve conflict and solve problems. There's something wrong with an industry that puts on the tube so much negative material that my grandchildren are precluded from turning on the TV sets by their parents because they don't want them to see all of that violence. I don't want them to see all of that violence. TV industry ought to recognize one thing and never forget it. They don't own the airwaves. They just have franchises. And what Congress giveth, Congress can take away. And I am getting to the point in my own view that if we can't stop it any other way, maybe we find a way to take back some of those TV franchises that are presently in the hands of the networks as well as the local stations. The responsibility in the main belongs at the network level, but I think we've had enough. I think yesterday was too late. I'm thankful to you for all that you have done. We haven't finished the problem, but with your leadership, I think we will get it done. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Senator Metzman. Senator Feinstein.
Mr. Chairman, I also want to join with my colleague, Senator Metzenbaum, in thanking you for your leadership in saying you have gained one senator to follow in this cause, because I've learned through almost 30 years now in public life that I have no doubt that the increase of violence on television is fueling violence in the home, in the schools, and on our streets. And I want to thank Senators Conrad and Dorgan and Representative Markey for being part of this. I'm here to listen and to learn. But to be honest, Mr. Chairman, I'm much less interested in proof of causality in numbers than I am in common sense. And let's be frank, kids see a lot of violence on television and the movies. It sells, so it's there. We also know, beyond question, that children are marvelous mimics. It's that innate capacity which helps them assimilate a large number of social and behavioral cues that we adults provide as we raise our children. So you don't need numbers to add this one up, Mr. Chairman. I believe children are influenced by what they see, and what they're seeing today is aggressive, it's violent, it's bloody, and it's gratuitous. You can learn more about how to use a weapon by watching television than if you go to any police firing range. That's fact. I've done it. I've seen it. I've learned how to break down and set up weapons, learn the various characteristics of weapons just by watching movies and sitcoms on television. As a member of this full committee, I want you to know that I'm very interested. I'm looking forward to hearing the testimony of others today, and I will be with you as we go downstream and try to do what we can to curb the violence on television. Thank you very much.
Thank you.